What's that?
The confession to make is that I've got a little carried away with my disciplining of the freshmen, and I was practicing beforehand to know how far I could go.
Yes.
I went too far.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens when you oppose his bills.
Violence. It does solve some problems.
Well, it does, and plus he can't keep up with me at this point, so that works out well too.
Outrunning the opposition can sometimes help.
Right.
Right. Again, thanks for taking a few minutes with GraniteGrok. I wanted to get together with you for a while, but I know that you had to settle in. But we did a series of interviews with you one evening. And my question is, what are your thoughts if you look back in time to those series of interviews that one night at the draft, and where you are right now? Are you surprised at where you've arrived to at this point, or are there things you kind of go, darn, we forgot something, or shouldn't have done that?
I'm really pleased about what we've done. You know, we had some real ambitious goals, and you know, I knew that it was going to be fairly easy to state what those goals are. You know, coming up with a budget that didn't have any new taxes, that lived within revenues, and all. I knew I was going to have to identify some real talented people who could work with me on that and come to believe that. And so, you know, I wasn't sure if that happened. I was pleased that we found those people. I mean, look at the folks who are on Ways and Means and Finance who worked hard on this. So I was really pleased about that. I wasn't sure that we'd be able to get there. And you know, the other impression is I thought it'd be only like 60 or 70 hours a week, and not like 90 to 100 hours a week, and so I'm not pleased about that.
Well, you signed up, you ran, too bad.
I did. So if it goes in excess of the number of hours a week there are, then I'm only myself to blame.
Okay. How about you, Bob?
Oh, I think the people are surprised at where we are. I'm not. I mean, Bill has had an agenda of making, you know, New Hampshire a fiscally responsible state for a long time, and I'm not surprised, which is one of the reasons I've, you know, sort of thrown in with him several years ago. He's honest, got integrity, and he sticks to his word. So I'm not surprised by what has been accomplished. I think people are, that he's been able to stick to his ideals.
Well, certainly there were a couple of missteps in the beginning, and certainly the press took you to task for that. But what I'm seeing from my standpoint from GraniteGrok is that the political pendulum by the Democrats over the last two bienniums was to coalesce power and condense power into Concord. And in doing a series of micro-interviews with reps all day today, I've made the statement that what Concord has been doing right now has been throwing that power away, back to the local levels and back to the individuals. And I see some surprise by the press about that. I'm not sure they know how to handle it, and certainly there are those at the left at the individual level going, why are they doing this? Your reflections upon that.
They don't understand who we are, do they? They look at government as something to be seized and used for their own individual goals. Some of them laudatory goals, you know, they want to do what's best for people, and of course they know what's best for people and they want to use government to do that. Sometimes for not so laudatory goals, just, you know, personal aggrandizement or personal financial advancement, but they look at government as an entity to be seized and grown, whereas philosophically we look at government as something that is there out of necessity, but at all times we should be asking, why does it have to be involved in any particular activity? Why does it have to be doing this? And often, as we know, the answer comes up, it doesn't have to, or it doesn't have to spend as much money doing it. So they don't understand. You know, it must be very like an instance of cognitive dissonance for them to watch us asking those questions and coming up with answers that make no sense to them at all, because it's going to mean a more limited government. It's going to mean a government that gives more freedom back to the people. It's going to be a government that shrinks, as this budget is indicating it must.
How about you, Bob, on the behind-the-scenes work? Are you seeing the same kind of exasperation on the parts of the Democrats?
Well, to some degree. I guess I would say that the press and the people early on missed the signs. The fact that we are decentralizing power out of Concord, it should not be a surprise. Bill, on his campaign for Speaker, ran on the idea that I'm going to give power back to the caucus, to the members to elect their own majority leader, which is something that had never been done, which is one of the reasons that I believe he was elected, was because of his willingness to share power. So people were surprised, even in the caucus, that he would give up one of the most powerful tools the Speaker had. and make it much more democratic. So I'm not surprised that you know, we're eking power out from Concord now and sending it back to where it belongs. So I think the press missed the early signs, which is just a misinterpretation on their part.
Step 2 was today. Step 3 starts in a couple of weeks when you reassemble again. How do you think that process is going to go with the crossover starting to happen and your philosophy, the Senate's philosophy, now have to come together and say, okay, who's going to have what from which?
Well, the Senate is going to, I think, have similar goals that we do. I think they're going to want to live within revenues. I think that they're going to want to avoid, as we have avoided, any new taxes and new fees, any increases in taxes and fees. I think there's a lot of shared goals there. Where the discussion is going to be is where do you make choices on the spending within the parameters that we have, and those are good discussions. You know, we don't know that we have all the answers other than the fundamental answers, which is we can't increase taxes anymore. We can't downshift to the towns and cities. They just can't take it anymore. We have to be honest with the people when it comes to revenue projections. You know, that's breaching faith with the people if we continue to do what was done the last few cycles, which is to say we have a gap, let's just make up money and then go figure it out later on, or maybe go forward on a hope and a prayer. You know, that's just not the responsible way to act. So, and I sensed in talking with the senators, and you know, this small group, we all get to know most of them, and you know, they have these same goals.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for taking a few minutes with GraniteGrok. I know it's been a long day. The most esteemed wife is waiting for me downstairs, wondering where I've gone off to yet again. The one thing I would like to ask is yet one more interview later on. I'd like to revisit all of those videos we did with you and do an actual accountability checkoff with you. Up for that?
We ought to do it sooner rather than later, because eventually with the amount I'm working, I'm going to look a lot younger in those videos than I look now, and that's going to be discouraging to me. So if we could just get to them fairly quickly.
Then I will make an appointment with you.
Good enough, good enough.
Bob, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thanks,
You're welcome.